Yo, what's up, friends? Welcome back to the local podcast. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Greensburg Video. That's my video and photography company located right here on Main Street in Greensburg. If you and your company are up for some fresh ideas and some engaging content, look no further than Greensburg Video. You can check out my work at gbgvideo.net or greensburgvideo.com. My portfolio is growing daily, so you can check that out. Shoot me a message, and we'll figure out a strategy for you. Speaking of advertising, you can do that for your business right here on the local podcast. If you're interested in that, hit me up at thelocal724.com. Today on the local podcast, we have co-creators of a book called Spilled Ink and Images. It's a collection of poetry and photography. The ink was provided by Santina Murin, and the images provided by Katherine Mansfield. They are the two on the show today, so let's welcome them. Welcome to the Local 724 podcast in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the local podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Hauser. Today we have Santina Murin and Katherine Mansfield. They're the duo that put out a book called Spilled Ink and Images. How are you guys?
Great.
Yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you guys describe to us a little bit about this book? Tell us just the elevator pitch now, and we'll get into it.
This was a book a long time in the making, basically, like years. Katherine and I have known each other since I was in 6th grade. She was in 7th. Her younger sister, Jackie, is my best friend. So we've all just sort of became friends. And we always sort of had a creative love. And that's why Katherine and I connected even at such a young age. And pretty much the book came from Katherine's constant urge and motivation and push to me to share any of my poetry publicly. It's been years of her being like, do this, no, do this, no. And then of course, Katherine with her photography, and she can, touch more on that, but just us deciding that, okay, let's do this. It was a very natural progression of she and I to collaborate because we've known each other so long. She's always been the, guiding force for me to, come into my own and decide like, okay, I don't need to keep this in my own head or in my own journal forever. It can be something public and it can actually help someone else or inspire someone else or anything like that. So it just felt right for Katherine to bring my words to life. And I think that she did that organically and beautifully. And I couldn't be happier now.
That's awesome. Everything it seems like a lot of things stem from, having your friends just kind of push you and want to see you progress and move forward. It's a very cool thing. Katherine, how about you and photography? How did you get into, just the idea of this book? And was that something that you both came up with, or was this something that you were just kind of like, let's do something?
Yeah. So, Santina is one of the first people I ever took photos of, experimenting with portraiture. I've had a camera ever since I was little. I remember having a camera in middle school, and my goodness, our iPhones take better quality images now than those cameras did. But Santina was always willing to be a model when she would sleep over. So I'm just I've always practiced photography on Santina, and I started really seriously taking photographs a couple of years ago. And I think that wanting to grow in the craft and kind of expand into almost more experimental portraiture instead of just traditional families and weddings, which I love, but actually taking portraiture and making it a little bit more surreal for some photos, and just kind of trying out all sorts of new things. The pandemic really lent itself to experiment with art, and Santina has always written. And so I would read some of her poems, and you can really see an image whenever you're reading what Santina's written. And I thought, I think we both just kind of came to it at the same time. It would be really neat to turn these poems into images as well and publish them alongside one another. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we're like, let's freaking do it. So we did.
Honestly, which is a huge thing, wanting to get it out in 2020 because of the fact of what the F is this year. And wanting to put something positive, whether that was just a selfish sort of personal positivity, you know, we wanted to put something out that year to say there was still something good that came out of this whirlwind of a year. And so I feel like Katherine and I we grew together literally and artistically from childhood to adulthood, and it just seemed like a perfect fit for us both to put something out together. And Katherine already had a book out. She put her own poetry book out prior in
April of 2020, which
2020, and then
feels like forever ago.
Feels like forever ago, and then did another book together. So I mean, Katherine's just extra crushing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between, you know, doing like portraiture type photography and then doing like event style photography. I'm a photographer as well.
Cool.
I have my own video company here in town, and so that's what I do for my day job. And then this is kind of a way for me to like network with people and just get to know like everybody in town. And, you know, I think being able to have that like creative outlet to do something like this is super important. I mean, it really forces you to think and use your muscles that you don't get to use like in the event world or in like a corporate space or things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's tough.
For a little under 2 years, and I had to get out of there. I was just like, I'm not the person to sit behind a desk. This does not work for me. It's not my vibe.
It's really tough.
I'm not trying to hate, especially, you know, that works for some people, but it was just like, tried it. Now I know ixnay on the 9 to 5.
The corporate A. Yeah, I was,
yes.
Same deal. I was the video director at American Eagle corporate for like 4 or 5 years. And it just like, it was awesome because it was like such a cool job. And like, when you would tell people that, they would be like, oh my God, that's like so cool. But then it's just like every day you're doing the exact same thing. And it's almost like a template. I like to say it's kind of like a kind of just a production facility. Like, you know, you do this part, you do this part, you do that part. Everything's so prescribed. And like, there's really no way to think out of the box, because when you get an idea, you have to have that like approved by like 8 levels high. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, but to do something like this is like, it's so much fun and so, you know, really cool. So
I just love that it was us. Like it was our thing. We didn't have anyone, just like you said, no one to answer to. If we wanted the poem in, it was in. If we liked the photo, it was in. Like it was just she and I to collaborate with and get approval of and with. And that was just it. Whatever we wanted to do, we did.
Yeah. So when did you guys meet?
Back when I was in 6th grade and you were in 7th, right? So
yeah. So I mean, when we were little kids.
Been a while.
Yeah. We've known each other for, God, at least almost 2 decades now, which is insane to say. I don't feel like I'm old enough to know someone for almost 20 years, but how many years? Yeah. And like Santina mentioned, she and my sister are best friends, and Santina was actually the maid of honor at my sister's wedding. But when she would come over, I would always hang out with her and my sister Jackie. And, you know, we always got along really, really well. And Jackie is not as abstract minded as Santina and I are. So she's very creative in her own ways. But I think that like Santina and I always connected with our art and kind of our lifestyles a little bit. Like we're definitely more free spirited. And so then Santina would always share poems. And I was like, why are you not putting this into the world? Like what you're saying is important. It will resonate with people. And people just need to hear it. Everybody needs to know that they're not alone in feelings that our book covers, that there's always somebody out there who is going through something similar you can connect with them, even if it's just a book that you read over and over because it's speaking to you at that moment. So
I think I always knew that in my gut. Like I always knew that I wanted to. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No worries. Fire whistles happen.
Yeah, okay out there. I think in my gut, I always knew that that was something that one day I would be ready to do. I don't know that I ever thought that that day would come, if that makes any sense. And I think that it's important to note that you as an individual have to be ready for whatever the outcome is, because when I decided, okay, I want to put my poetry out into the world, I had to, make peace with the fact that people could hate it. People could be like, what? Like, what is this? Who is this version of you? Because I always say this, I don't know if you're into astrology at all, but with astrology, it's like you have your sun sign. So my sun sign is a Scorpio. So that's like a really deep and emotional person. And then my oh my gosh, I'm literally blanking right now. My rising sign is Sagittarius, and that is the sort of way that you present yourself to other people. And that's a really like bubbly, outgoing, like that type of person. And so when people, I feel like, meet me, their perception of me a lot of the times is very like happy-go-lucky and happy hippie and like all this stuff, which is true. That is a part of me. But
yes,
the Scorpio part, who is who you inherently are, dark, deep, emotional, raw person. And so I was like, am I going to scare people? Are they going to be like, what is, you know what I mean? So you have to be ready for people to really see you and get to know you in that way.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I really know about astrology was I moved to Lancaster a few years back in, I think like 2012. And I lived there for like 4 or 5 years. And I was at a bar and I was just trying to like, meet friends and stuff and just like get to know people while I was there. And there was this bar by my house and I went there and this gentleman came down and he sat down and he looked at me and he like lit up a cigarette and he's looking at me and he goes, what's your sign? And I was like, what? And so I figured out what he was talking about. And I said, Gemini. And he goes, oh, fuck no. And he got up and he walked out at the other end of the bar. And I never talked to that dude for like another couple months. And then finally we ended up being like best friends. But that was my first meeting with my buddy Marcus.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
He's like, yeah, fuck no, you're crazy. And he just walked away. And I was like, all right, see ya.
Split personality.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That's amazing.
But I mean, like, going from like a corporate atmosphere, like something that like I used to let like, that roll my whole entire life. My first like dive into a creative space was probably doing like YouTube videos and like doing things like, hey, here's how to use a camera and here's how to like film a video and here's some ideas on lighting and things like that. And I knew that I could do that job because I had the qualifications to get the job that I had. So I knew that, but there's always those like keyboard warriors out there that are going to be like, dude, your lighting sucks. What? Like, you don't know shit about this camera or blah, blah, blah. So you put yourself out there and it's a scary time to like really do that. But it's also very rewarding too, because, if you know what you're talking about and people, there's a million people out there that flow just like you. And, when they find you, then you've got your tribe. Those are your people. And it's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so true.
Katherine, do you feel vulnerable, like putting out your photos, even if it's not of you, but it's still, you know what I mean? It's still you. Do you feel?
Yeah. So my mom and I are super, super close. And when I show her photos of families that I've taken or weddings, she's always like, oh, that's wonderful, because it's something that everyone can relate to. Mm-hmm. When I showed her some of the images in Spilled Ink and Images, my mom said, that has so much emotion and I don't understand that photo. And so it's like, it's a totally different kind of photography than I've ever shown anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the work that the photographs that we took, Santina and I took together for Spilled Ink and Images, again, totally different kind of portraiture, different kind of photography than I've ever really done or shared with people. And so it feels like it is a little bit scary. It's like, I think that we put so much of ourselves into these images. Like I did so much interpreting of Santina's psyche and we worked so closely together. Like I've never worked with another artist or anyone really on something so personal to both of us. And I think that like we're both so attached to the work and we tried totally different things that like scared the crap out of us. And so putting these photos out, it's like, oh my God, like I hope people don't think that's weird. One of my favorite images in the book is of Santina. She has dead flowers in her mouth. And like to get that photo, it's freezing cold. She's a freaking trooper outside in this like summer dress. It's like 2 degrees outside.
In her backyard.
I know. And like she like put wildflowers in her mouth because I asked her to. Like, what a wonderful human. And
like, if these are poisonous, you're like, okay, get the shot. So
it's like I just wanted I'm like in my head this makes sense. It goes with the poem. It's expressing exactly what I'm thinking in my head. But when somebody else sees it, who's not Santina and who is not me and who does not have a vested interest in Spilled Ink and Images, are they just going to be like, WTF? Like she's eating dead flowers, or are they going to get it?
But that's like, it was just, I just love that. Like, I was like, okay, Katherine, like here are my poems. I am the author for this. You are the photographer. So it's like my poems now become your poems in that I'm not telling you what I envision when I read this or what my experience was. I want you to feel what you feel and what you want to portray as the photo. So it was a collaboration, but it was still like a separate project basically for each of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My first, when you guys sent me, the book, like the very first like thing that I realized was just there's a lot of storytelling going on, not only in the poems, but in the photography. Like that's the difference between like taking images for a wedding or family portraits or something like that. Because, and I'm a photographer, so I'm not, I can say this and it's not that big of a deal. Those types of jobs you can show up to and you can really just kind of go on autopilot and you trust your lighting, you trust your settings, you trust your camera and your eye, and you just shoot and you make everything look pretty because these are going to hang in somebody's living room and, be shared on Facebook. But these types of images, you really get into the emotional piece of it. Like your mom said, it's very important to like kind of understand what type of thing you see when you read a poem like that, how you interpret that. It's very cool. I really love it. Everything about
Thank
this,
you.
like, it's very creative. It's very cool to like see what other people are doing, like in the same like business, that I work in. It's so much fun to see like local people really doing something that's, passionate for them.
I definitely want to note too that my personality is something I guess you could say struggle with, is a power and control aspect just in life, always feeling that need to sort of have that. Something I have always, it's been a theme in therapy, something I work on. And it was one of the first shoots that we did. And it was the end of the day with Katherine. And I said to her, do you remember this, Katherine?
Yes.
And I go, I just realized something that is like really huge. She's like, what is it? I'm like, it's the end of the day. we've taken how many photos. I didn't ask to see a single one. I wasn't over your shoulder. Like, let me see, what do I look like? Like, how's that? What's that? Nothing. I'm like, I totally trust you. Like, I trust Katherine and her vision and her artistry and just like her passion so much that I was like, wait, I didn't even try to control one part of the situation. And it was like that through the whole thing. And to the fact where I didn't see these images until Katherine had taken them, edited them, sent them over, and was just like, this is the one for this poem. And I'm like, yup, that's the one. Like, and I just feel like that is such a freeing thing too. Just overall.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see. And that's almost like some kind of weird, like validation for you, Santina, because like it's when you put yourself out there, like you said, and you're wondering what people are going to be thinking, why not use one of your best friends first to like, understand like, okay, cool. She would pair this image with this poem. This is very cool to see. Like it's experimental. It's very cool.
Totally.
And it was really fun too, because, so whenever like we had talked about doing this book in 2019 and just, it didn't happen. It wasn't the right time. But at the beginning of 2020, we're like, yeah, we're doing this. Like, we are actually doing this. And then with the pandemic, obviously everything shut down. So, we had to get like extra creative, based on like shooting locations and like trying to be outside as much as possible. So some of the photos, there's one poem called Demons, and Santina, is spinning around and it looks like a nice warm day. It was like freezing and this girl is smiling like she's having the best like summer day of her life. And meanwhile, it's like so cool. So it's just fun that like to have somebody who's so willing and so trusting in front of the camera, just saying, okay, take the photo that you think is going to look the best for this poem. And then I'm just going to do what you say. And like, we'll just act it out and I'll trust whatever you send my way. Like, it's just like so exciting because I'm able, like we would get the shot and I'd be like, all right, we're done. Like I know that I got the shot. Like I don't even have to look back. I just know that I snapped and that was it. And let's do the next one. And it was just a blast because like to work with Santina is just such a joy because she's just so willing to do anything for the art too, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like, I know how I feel when I go out on shoots and stuff and I'm working with my friends. Those are some of the best days of my entire life. Like those are things that I look back on. We talk about all the time. We're just like, oh man, do you remember when we were here and we were shooting this and blah, blah, blah. It's so much fun. And that, for you guys to share something like that is beyond awesome. Like I know it's a corporate term here, but like a team building type of thing. Like you guys are really, building that, like that trust between the two of you that, the first time Santina that you modeled, were you probably like a little nervous? Like, oh my God, what is this going to be like? Or yeah.
100%.
And now
photos, I've always been the person who was like, we're taking pictures like as a kid, always. Like I've always loved pictures, but I'm like, just because I like pictures or like pictures taken of me doesn't mean I'm a model. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but with Katherine, it's so like the fact that she has the vision, she'll tell you, she tells you what to do. And so you don't even feel like you have to kind of create your own story for her to capture. You're just like, okay, if she says that to do that, then it must look good. It's working. I'm just doing it and it works.
And that's fun. That's a lot of fun because I think that you take the stress off of the model themselves, like the talent in front of the camera. But at the same time, like I think it's really important to be strong enough to be able to give that direction to somebody and regardless of what they're thinking when you say that. Because like, I know that, when I started doing weddings, I've been through the wedding world. I'm done with all that now. But when I started doing them, I would really just try and not have them do anything too crazy because I didn't want them to be like, I I don't really want to do that. Like that was an awkward moment for me. And then like, as I went further and further, like as maybe like year 4 or 5 or something like that, I was like, you know what, pick her up. And they would just be like, what? And I'm like,
do that.
Pick her up, don't drop her. You ready? And it was like, boom, boom, boom. And if they wanted to, cool. If they didn't want to, I didn't care. I was just like, I want to get something that makes you uncomfortable, that makes me uncomfortable. This is probably going to end up being a really cool photo. If not, we'll throw it away. Fuck it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, but it's very fun to be able to give those directions comfortably and to take the direction comfortably as well.
Yeah. I also would like to say quickly that the dedication in the beginning, the very first, words at all was written by Katherine. I think a lot of people assume that it was written by me just because I did all the poetry. And so I want that to be known and out there that it was written by Katherine, because when she sent that over to me, it was just like, oh yeah, just a little something that I played around with. This is literally amazing. The beginning of like, this is for the one, all that. So I just wanted,
this is for the broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I told you I didn't have any bullet points, but I have one bullet point. I don't know if you can see it, but right there, it says, this is for the broken. I love that. It's awesome because like, it's such a cool thing. I mean, I don't know what kind of music you guys are into. I'm like a big Alkaline Trio fan. I like Bayside. Mm-hmm. These types of bands, they really kind of dabble in the whole like misery and like death and like all that. Like, but they turn it into like kind of like goofy songs, and they're kind of like cheeky. And it's just like, these are the topics that this music is about, and I really love that music. And I was just like, wow, this is a really cool thing, because you're really just kind of like expressing yourself right off the bat. And one of my favorite poems in this is "This Is Me." I love this because it really, like, in today's world, when you think of social media and everything, everybody is like only shows like the best parts of their lives. The best part. Yes. The highlight reel. It's perfect. And there is like a whole, the ice under the water, like an iceberg, you know what I mean? You're only seeing the tip of the iceberg on social media. So that really kind of put me in the realm of like, going through and looking at these influencers and stuff, saying like, yes, they're making a load of money from these awesome companies that, I wish I was sponsored from. And, but, they've got all this crazy shit to deal with, I'm sure. Like, but it's very cool. That's what made me think, reading that poem.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite poems as well, but that is definitely one of our favorite photos, both of us.
Yes. That
really cool photo.
Silhouettes,
I'm very proud of that one.
I think Silhouettes is one of your favorites as well. Silhouettes like jumped right up there when she sent me that. Even something with that, like the angle that she took of me, normally, like, you're not always feeling your prettiest, or you're like, oh, this isn't the best angle or view, or like I'm sometimes self-conscious about my profile, and like Katherine took an image of my profile, and I was like, all right, like, I just want to be as vulnerable as possible. And just that image, I never in a million years would think that I would love the way I looked in a angle and shot like that. And I just, it's amazing. Like, I told her, I'm like, the way that your photography is makes me jealous of myself, like in a funny way. Like, just like you said about social media, it really makes you think and feel like, okay, whenever you look at a photo of like another girl or somebody else and you're like, wow, I wish I looked like that, or I had that outfit, or whatever it is that you sometimes get sucked into. I'm like, I looked at this photo and I'm like, in my hoodie and hair up, and I'm like, no makeup, whatever. And I look at this like photo of me and I'm like, wow, like I look so great. And then I'm like, wow, but like I do, but I do, you know what I mean? And so it's just like, that is me, but it's like a heightened me because there's like a cool filter or whatever, not filter, but you know what I mean? Cool edit. And I mean, we didn't like edit any of the photos with like touching up any
Yeah, sorry, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But of course, like to fit a mood, you edit it to fit a mood.
Oh yeah.
Flaws, but it was just like, yeah, that was.
And like one of my favorite parts about silhouettes too, like I am really, really happy with how that shot turned out, because I saw that and that I was like, dang, like, okay, I did that. That's cool. But the best part is that's in Santina's grandma's room. We like I said, with the pandemic, we had to get creative with where we were shooting. And we literally went into her grandma's room and I made her sit at her grandma's vanity. It's like dusty AF. And I'm like, let's just see what happens here. And it's like, it's just so fun when you kind of stumble upon just like a room that you've been in a million times if you live there, or like just there. I mean, like the whole world is basically a backdrop if you know how to just like put it in perspective or frame it.
Yeah. I mean, like everything, even down to like, you know, the vanity itself, and we'll call them the props, you know, like, it just, everything fits so well. And it's so, that's what I mean. Like for each story, I think that you guys really nailed the, like the ambience of, you know, the environment, things like that. I did want to ask, did you shoot these all digitally, or were they some of them in film, or?
They're all digital. I shot them, I think all but like 2 with a Fujifilm X-T3. Nice. And then there were a couple that were a Nikon D7200, but I love the Fujifilm, and I just got it like in 2019. So basically like this Spilled Ink and Images gave me the chance to really play around with that camera. So I love it. Fuji forever.
I noticed like a lot of the multiple exposure type stuff that you have on here, like those are really awesome. I really, really enjoy those.
Thank you.
Whenever I started doing photography, that's 35 millimeter was still the thing. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. So I was like towards the end, I was like right at the beginning of digital, like so at the beginning that people didn't trust digital. It was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to shoot film forever.
People are like trending back toward film now, which is really cool.
I just bought a couple Polaroids the other day off of eBay. Like you can buy Polaroid, like full on like Polaroids from the 60s and 70s for like $15 and they work. It's the craziest thing in the world, but they're so much fun, and you really have to like think about like getting creative with that shot, because a pack of film is $20 and you have 8 shots. Like my camera just went out. Don't worry about that. I'm still here. It started to overheat a little while ago. I was wondering when that was going to shut off, but it's just, you have to be like super mindful of just like, oh my God, I have 8 shots. What am I going to spend these 8 shots on? You know, if it was digital, oh my God, I would have went out for days and just like ripped 1,000 pictures by now. But I've had that camera for about a week and I've only shot 2 photos. So
oh my gosh.
It's pretty wild. Santina, when did you start getting into writing? When did that start to happen?
Since I was a kid. Naturally not really poetry when I was a child, but there was always something, whether I was writing what I considered a song or stories or even like a movie script, you know, to me, I was always writing, always creative in that way. And as I got older, it turned more into poetry, because as I got older, I was more in tune with my emotions, and that was my outlet. That was my escape for anything that I was feeling, and didn't really know how to express, or didn't have somebody to necessarily express it to. That was my safe space, was myself. And it just, you know, turned into poetry. I think in Spilled Ink and Images, the oldest poem that is in there was probably from my sophomore year of high school. I think The End is the oldest poem in the book. Naturally, when I wrote it when I was a sophomore, it wasn't as mature as we worked it into now, but that was, you know, an inspired by poem. And then, I mean, the most recent was 2 weeks before the book came out, like we made stuff happen quickly with what we wanted to be in there. There were certain things that were happening in real time that I wanted to like live on in this book as well.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
awesome.
talk about the Who Am I poem. I love that story.
Oh, the Who Am I was junior year of high school. And I'll never forget writing that poem because it was actually an assignment for a class. And I was in study hall the one day and realized I had English class next period. And our assignment for whatever we were doing in class was to write a poem. And it just hit me while I was in study hall the period before, like, oh my God, I didn't do my homework again. And so it was like, oh, what's the assignment? Write a poem. And I literally just busted that poem out in like 10 minutes before having to go to the class. And the next day, my English teacher pulled me aside and was like, Santina, that was one of like the best poems that I received in the class. And like, it was so like intelligent and just with such emotion. I was like, thanks, like I worked really hard on it. But it truly like just was obviously something that was inside me that I needed to get out at that time. And it just came. Normally inspiration doesn't hit me like that, where I'm like, I need to write something and then it just comes naturally. That's not how inspiration works. It comes right as you're about to fall asleep, when you're in the shower, all, the most inconvenient times normally, of course.
Yes.
But that one just sort of worked out that way.
That's awesome.
Great. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, in those situations, I think you definitely take all the accolades that you get because that was in there somewhere. You know what I mean? Like things don't have to be hard for them to be significant.
Ooh.
Like one of my favorite things ever is from Mad Men, Don Draper. He just said, keep it simple, but significant. And, make it simple, but significant. And that's like one of the greatest things is, especially when I'm having like meetings with clients and stuff, and they're like, we need you to do this and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, cool, I can do that. That's easy. But I don't ever want to communicate that to them because I don't want them to see, attach a dollar figure to the word easy. Right. And it's just like, I'm not cheapening what I do. I'm just saying that, you're the pro. You're the pro of in poetry. And it's just like, that's something that you do. And you could rip something out like this. And if I tried to rip out a poem in 10 minutes, it would probably start with Roses Are Red because that's like, the where I'm at. I'm not a pro, when it comes to that. So I think, people need to understand that, just because things are easier or harder doesn't mean that they're any less significant.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's very cool. One thing that I noticed about this that I enjoy, I think the most, is the fact that it says volume 1. Do you guys have plans for a volume 2?
Yeah, definitely.
We actually just had a shoot last week, so.
Oh yeah, you're starting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Definitely, we want to make it clear too that we want to give Spilled Ink and Images Volume 1 the appropriate time to exist. We're
Absolutely,
not really jumping in the next thing to be like, it's out in a month. Like, of course not. We don't foresee anything coming out anytime the near future, but we do have extra side projects that we're working on, and just to always keep creating is really the goal. And to know that we did this once, so we can do it again. I feel like that's always the hardest step after when you put something out, because a lot of this was the bulk of my really proud writing. So everything that of course it wasn't everything, but a lot of this was even stuff that was notes in my notes app that wasn't ever finished or anything like that, and just started. But so once you put something out, sometimes it's was that everything I had? Do I have any more creativity left, or did I just use it all? So it's don't get comfortable with the fact that you put something out. Let's keep going. There's so
keep it going.
More in you. There's so much more in Katherine, so we just we put it to make sure that we were sort of like locked into continuously creating.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah. And sometimes that's all you need is just that little push, that little reminder to like, all right, keep going, because eventually people are going to expect more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys print copies of this, like physical hard copies?
Yeah. Like I have a copy. Santina, you have a copy, right?
Yeah. So like,
and
yes,
then yeah, so it's all print on demand. So if you were purchasing it from Barnes and Noble or Amazon, it just prints on demand whenever somebody makes that purchase.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice.
We wanted to sort of wait until COVID was less of a thing, where we could do more things in person, open mic nights and different sort of like art studios, or getting a booth someplace here or there, you know, for things where we just, right now it's basically all online. But when the world allows us to, you know, have human connection again, then we definitely plan to buy in bulk and bring those to be able to sell in more places, like in person.
Yeah. So cool.
And yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So what do you guys see, I guess, as the future of collaborating between you guys? Not just the volume 2, but I mean, like, you guys did a fantastic job on this. You know, do you guys think that maybe you guys could get together on other projects, maybe collaborate on other things?
Catherine, do you want to say what we were working on, or is that something you're cool with?
Yeah, let's do it. Put it out there. So the hair.
Oh, no, I meant what we took photos for when we were just at the studio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we just did a shoot. Sanctuary in Pittsburgh has a gallery. It's like a tattoo vintage store, and they have a big gallery space.
Catherine's already been featured in, but it's humble to say, but she has.
So they have a call for artists, which actually got pushed back due to all the craziness of the beginning of 2021. But the theme is the sensuous woman, and just kind of exploring the like underappreciated parts of womanhood, or just the parts of womanhood that aren't always out there, people aren't always comfortable with. So Santina and I got studio space last week, and we actually created a series of images that just featured her being incredibly vulnerable and beautiful, studded in diamonds, a couple of photos like her reflection, just playing with the idea of who you are, the way you're dressed, but then how you actually see yourself, and how that might differ, like the way you, how Santina said earlier, the way you present yourself to the world, and then the way you really feel inside, and how that's not always the same. So we just were exploring that. And some of the photos that we created together, I cannot wait for people to see, because
genius.
but Santina is a genius in front of the camera. Like this is why I shoot photos, because I could never get in front of a camera and look natural, like ever. So it just blows my mind when I tell her, please sit in this incredibly uncomfortable position while I take a photo. Wait and hold that position, because I didn't quite get the right angle that I wanted. And actually, can you sit like that for about 20 more minutes? Because I just need you to look a little bit more pained to come across in the photo, you know? So it's like, she is always willing to do that. And it blows my mind. Like, I don't know how people model, because it's not always glamorous, how like it comes out glamorous, but it's not.
Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, you guys sound like a hell of a team.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. I mean, can you guys tell people where they can find the book and all the links? Let's do all the links. Oh, there I go again.
Go ahead, Sand.
Okay. Well, right now it's available online on Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Catherine, you want to share your website?
Yeah. So it's imagesbycatherinemansfield.com. KATH, not a C.
Yeah. I also have borntovibe.net. Our books aren't available there, but you could just see more of our work as well. And then for Instagram, I am at Santina Murin and at Born to Vibe.
And I am at Katherine Mansfield and at Images by Katherine Mansfield.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put all of those links down in the show notes so everybody can find those in the description. You guys will be able to just click on those instead of trying to remember. But,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and I keep telling everybody, I talked about YouTube videos back in the middle of this thing. But, that's one of my biggest things is I just think that now out of any time in the world, this is the time to just go for something, do something. There's really a lot of free time that people have now, and just be as creative as possible. If you want to try something, now's the time to do it. Just go for it. And the fact that you guys went and did that that's super cool. It's motivating. It's inspiring.
Thank you. Oh, I also should mention that we will be featured in OK Cool magazine, which is coming out February 1st. So we have, I believe they're featuring 5 poems and images in their magazine. So that's coming out February 1st.
That's awesome.
As well, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
We're just very happy. And the irony of today, I just can't go without touching on that, with it being 121 and that being a poem title in the book. Whenever you sent over availability, I was like, is this a joke?
Yeah, the available dates. That was so funny because I remember talking to you about that, and I was like, yes, it's got to be on the 21st. That's what we got to do.
Yes.
You can't ignore that shit.
You can't.
No.
Memorable day. I feel like you could read that and read about that in the book with the poem titled 121.
Mm-hmm.
But this just felt very perfect to do today. This is both of our podcast debuts. So we're super excited with you. You're absolutely awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys wanting to be on. It's a really cool thing. Like I said, I just started this to kind of just network with people and get to know people. And it's one of the coolest things because I really enjoy having these stories, come from you guys, and just being able to, give people a look behind the curtain is really cool.
Yeah. We really appreciate it. That's awesome.
And we're also doing a book giveaway right now it's on my personal Instagram. So at Santina Murin, we're doing a book giveaway, which we just put it out there today, and it's lasting for 2 weeks. So if any of your listeners are interested, you could get a free copy by just following the instructions on my most recent post. Yeah,
definitely. Mm-hmm. Very good. Everyone should go out there and try to get that book. It's a really cool collection of poetry and images. It's very cool. I'm looking at it right now. It's one of the coolest things. And just to have it be there's the hard copy right there. We'll have to snag an image there for people to see. But yeah, definitely. I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming on the show again. It's an honor to have you guys on. And that's about all I got.
It's an honor to be on.
Yeah, not hard at all. Thank you for having us again. We hope that we can meet you sometime in person. You're awesome, and this was so much fun.
Thank you very much. All right, stick around. Okay, what an inspiring journey that these guys had while making this book. It's really cool. I feel like, they really built a solid friendship during this because of all the work that they had done together. And it's a fascinating book. I really hope that you guys will go check out the links and check their work out. It's very awesome. I have all of the links for you to contact them and connect with them down in the show notes. And I hope you guys go ahead and do that. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time.